Okay, welcome to everybody. Welcome. Okay, audio's better now. We've had some audio issues today for some crazy reason, and I don't know why. And I just hate audio problems. That is the biggest bummer. This is Jared with Day Traders FX. Feel free to check out the website at that link, get a free trial to the trade group. We're going to have a busy week this week, especially since I took a couple of days off last week, Thursday, Friday, to observe a little Thanksgiving / see if I can get 10,000 calories down in one sitting. I think I succeeded. And we're just kind of back at it. We're back at it. We're going for it. Lots of good stuff to talk about. And thanks, Simon. It is praiseworthy just a little bit. I ate enough for 4 people for like a whole day. Instead of Thanksgiving, they need to call it just gluttony, because let's just call it what it is. I mean, we're thankful for gluttony, and that's pretty much how it all went down. So good little weekend, good little break with everyone. Lots of fun. But I'm excited to be back to the charts. I really did get some anxiety. I think I had legitimate anxiety last night, thinking, man, I feel like I haven't worked much. It was just the right break that I got wound down enough. Did some meditating, kind of really got the most out of my break. And now I'm just ready to get back to the charts. I'm tired of sleeping. I'm tired of getting a break. I'm tired of not stringing myself out like I do on a pretty regular basis on regular trading. So it's good to be back. Good to be back with you guys. Always a pleasure. So I was looking at some of the typical business websites today, and I saw something that said automakers are about to do something in the U.S. that's never happened before, and I was excited. I was like, they're giving cars away. They're going to be giving cars away. I'm finally going to get a free car. This is going to be amazing. And then it was something about how their sales are going great or some garbage, so I was pretty disappointed about that. No free cars. Just want everybody to know that. Automakers are not giving away free cars right now, but they're selling a lot of them, and everybody's pretty excited about that, apparently. We have had another pretty kind of day in the stock market, down just a little bit. Oil's back down. Nothing is moving much. So I don't really know what else to say about that, except for the fact that we have some ridiculous news coming out today, this week. This week is a heavy news week. We're going to start it off. We've already seen a little bit of news on Sunday, but today we've got just all kinds of things. Number one, we have interest rate news for Australia coming out in about 3 hours. Simon says he's going to try to stay up. Simon says. That just came out. I didn't even think about it. Simon's going to try to stay up out there in the UK till like 3 o'clock in the morning and watch the news, which I think it'll be good to watch. The interest rate news from Australia is always exciting. It either does absolutely nothing or it just explodes and breaks the charts and the internet and everything. So what's it going to do? I don't know, but I think it's worth keeping an eye on. That's coming up in a couple of hours, so that'll be worth keeping an eye on. Then we've got Carney speaking bright and early tomorrow morning, right around the open of the markets for the UK. He always brings the heat, so I'm sure there's going to be some wild activity there. We've got some good old U.S. ISM numbers and so on. Should be exciting. GDP numbers and a little central bank news from Australia tomorrow evening. Wednesday, ADP numbers. Boom. Interest rate news for Canada. Bada boom. Yellen speaks on Wednesday. Again, more boomity boom. Trade balance for Australia. Wednesday is an intense news day. Just be ready for that. Thursday, interest rate news for Europe. ECB press conference. That's always a wild beast. Draghi's going to talk about something. I don't know what. And the euro's probably going to move a lot. And I don't know which direction. But I'm going to propose some directions. Then we've got more ISM news. And then Friday we have Canadian employment and U.S. employment numbers. So every day is a huge news day. We're just going to do the best that we can and get the most out of all of these news announcements. We'll have a live non-farm payroll day on Friday. We'll see how that all goes. And it should be pretty exciting. So just be ready. It should be a wild week of trading. Here's a couple of things that I'm looking at trying to do. this week. Non-farm is on Friday. The ADP non-farm report is on Wednesday, and that's the private sector jobs. So the Friday report, Sharon, is for all the public sector jobs, and then we always have that ADP announcement on Wednesday, the Wednesday before non-farm. So it's a different report. Okay, so here's a couple of things that I'm looking at here. I've been talking to a lot of people about all this. I might be crazy. I might not be crazy. We'll see. The euro dollar is getting into a pretty interesting little channel, little situation, little everything. Euro dollar. So let me just be clear on the fact that I am extremely wanting to be long and stay long U.S. dollar. I think the U.S. dollar is probably a safe buy. I also think the U.S. dollar is a crowded trade right now, and I think there's a lot of money in the euro, or excuse me, in the dollar. And typically when that happens, it's time for a little correction, a little reversal, a little shake everybody out kind of a situation before things start turning around and coming back. So I'm looking, and it may take us all the way into the ECB press conference for this to happen, but I'm looking for the euro to run up just a little bit before it continues down. The euro dollar could very easily continue down, and if it does do that, then we want to be short euro dollar at or below 105.50. Basically the break of about 105.50. We want to be short euro dollar and just keep riding that puppy down. But we're coming into some pretty interesting levels here on euro dollar. We're coming into yearly lows. We've had a big breakout, a nice big movement here, and we're coming into these yearly lows. We're going to start encountering some pretty big support, particularly on this pair, and I think it's going to be a nice opportunity to ride a little bit of this falling wedge back on up. I'd like to see some 106.50, 10700 areas. And that's a good point, Sharon. Will USD bulls cash out before the year's end? Very possible, very possible, absolutely. And we've got a pretty nice little pattern here that tells us that something like that may happen. So once again, we want to be short at about 105.50 or below 105.50. But if that holds, and that's pretty close, that's only just literally a couple of pips away. If that holds, or if that gets choppy, if it breaks 105.50 and then kind of just hangs in there, then I'm going to be looking to buy the euro dollar probably above about 10600. If we get back up above 10600, I'm looking for anywhere from 50 to 200 pips from there. I still think we could see 107.50. We could see 10800 on euro dollar, and if we see any of that stuff, then of course I'm going to sell the holy smokes out of the euro dollar at that point. And just trade it down from there. But I think we've got some correction in the works, and I think we might get some movement up on euro dollar. So I'm looking for that. I'll be very cautiously short below 105.50. If it breaks below that, I'm going to keep a real tight leash on it and just ride it down, literally counting pip by pip, and not give it hardly any wiggle room at all. But if it does break out and head up, if you don't want to trade the correction, the reversal, then just stay out of it and let it run up a bit and short it from a higher price. I don't really love shorting the euro dollar 105.50. I'll do it, and if it runs, I'll be in it. If it doesn't, then it's going to get choppy and it's going to stop out a couple of positions and so on. But I really like this euro dollar running up. I think we've got a good chance of a bit of a move higher. It's kind of squeezing in here. It's getting more and more consolidated, and we have a very large falling wedge. All big things that we like to keep an eye on. So if we can get a break back up above here and get this up into the 107.50, I think that's really, really interesting and really fantastic. So short at 105.50 cautiously, long somewhere above 10600 into 10700 and possibly even into 10800. Pound dollar's bumping around a little bit here. We're going to keep an eye on that. Dollar Swiss franc. We've talked about the dollar Swiss franc quite a bit. And we're getting to kind of ridiculous number status here on dollar Swiss franc. And so everybody is pretty afraid of the dollar Swiss franc, and you should be, because of the huge movements that we all saw happen on the Swiss franc whenever the central bank started talking about stuff and getting things going. And so far, that's still a real threat. We saw this little spike up because the Swiss National Bank said, looking for negative deposit rates. So it's going to cost you money to leave. It's going to cost you interest to park your money in Switzerland. So just be careful with that. And so that happened, and we saw a nice little spike up on dollar Swiss franc. This ran up a good little chunk, almost 100 pips from high to low, and then just consolidated, and it made a nice little bull flag, and the bull flag couldn't hold. It retraced over 61% of the movement, and it's kind of just bouncing around, and it's retesting this trend line. We still have an incredibly overbought 1 hour chart. Basically, what I want to do on dollar Swiss franc is every time it runs up, I want to sell it. Every time it runs up, I want to sell it. Just a little trend line break, sell it. This one gave us a nice little trend line break. It's running back up. We'll see how it does around this 10300 area. I'd like to get it a little closer to some of these highs to sell it. But I want to be shorting dollar Swiss franc anytime it runs up until we take out this 200 moving average. Once that happens, then I'm long dollar Swiss franc, and I'm taking this thing up to the moon. But it's had a pretty nice run. We've also got a bit of a rising wedge here. It's coming up into some pretty serious resistance. Some of the pre-crash levels going back into the highs of the end of last year. So we're right at some good resistance. This is a good area for the dollar Swiss franc to kind of struggle and correct just a little bit. It's not level out of thin air. So this is a good spot for a little correction for this to come back down, and it also happens to be incredibly overextended on both 1 hour charts and 4 hour charts. 4 hour charts not quite as glorious as the 1 hour chart, but it's nothing to ignore. So I'm just looking to sell the dollar Swiss franc on every move higher that it makes. And I'll just keep on doing that until it hits that 200 moving average, which is just a hair above 10200 at this point. So that's looking pretty good. So overall, I'm just looking for the dollar to breathe. I'm looking for the U.S. dollar to breathe. It's been rallying pretty well against several, and I'm just looking for it to take a breath, to just correct just a little bit. And I want to short dollar Swiss franc, and I want to be long euro dollar when this all happens. And I also, I'm less gung ho about this one, but I also like this whole setup here on the Canadian dollar. So we have U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar right here, and it's really just kind of bumping around in this area. It seems to be a little bit stuck in this area, and this is on the daily chart. We've got a bit of a double top here, right around 134.40.50 area, about 100 pips higher. We've got a pretty nice little trend line that goes back to the lows of October. So it's about a month and a half long trend line, and it's just been running up this guy as well. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Is this double top going to be able to hold? If we do truly see a little bit of a profit-taking situation on U.S. dollar, then we could see some nice little breakouts. I'm going to be very careful on this one, but I'm going to watch these two levels. I'm going to watch 134.50, and I'm going to watch this rising trend line from the lows of October, and just look for a breakout. And whichever way it breaks out, I'm probably going to jump into it and grab a couple of pips on that one. So we'll keep an eye on that. If we do get some interesting big surprise news from Australia today, we had a very fantastic, wonderful, nice, excellent trade at the break of this pattern right here, up towards the 200 moving average. And yes, you're very right, Sharon. We do have some nice. We do have some pretty nice little price patterns there, and some candlesticks showing us some good stuff. So we do love that. So we made a nice little run here on the Australian dollar up. Just kind of watch this daily chart. This is what we want to keep an eye on if the news changes, if there's a surprise interest rate cut coming out of Australia, which I could very, very well see happen. I don't even know how much of a surprise that would be, except for it's not overall expected. So if that does happen, keep an eye on this area. Look for this to come back down, retest trend lines, look for it to break highs, just kind of, depending on how things go, watch that daily chart and be very careful. If you haven't traded the news or if you haven't traded interest rate specific stuff, it can be very fast and very wild and very crazy, so be very careful. Another pair that can be watched in that arena is the Aussie-New Zealand pair. This has been running up. This has been creating a nice little rising wedge. It's broken out of the rising wedge. It's retraced just a little bit, and now it's breaking even these trend lines right here. It's testing the 23% fib level, and it means we probably have another 100 pip run without much trouble down into that 38% fib. So just keep an eye on that if we get some bearish news from Australia this afternoon. But that's just a good setup in general anyway. But we've talked about euro-dollar and having some opportunities to get long euro-dollar. I'm also seeing some of these same things on euro-Aussie. Now, this again could be exaggerated. If we see a surprise rate cut out of Australia, then the euro-Aussie is going to shoot way up. And that wouldn't be too much of a major surprise because my 1 hour chart on the Euro-Aussie is very, very oversold as well. It's like incredibly oversold. And so I look at something like this and I think, ooh, this might be headed up. You can see we're at almost 500 bars on the 1 hour chart since the last time it touched that moving average. That's been a long time. It's been well over a month on a 1 hour chart. That's a pretty serious situation. Previous pips that it's moved away about 600, and we're currently about 700. So the numbers are fantastic on this pair to get a little bit of a pullback, and you know, the Australian news could be the thing that takes us back up just a little bit higher. Towards that 200 moving average. So keep an eye on that. Be ready if the Aussie news, makes things go nuts. Because I'm also looking for an opportunity to potentially get long Euro Aussie. If this dips down a little bit, gives us some more double bottom activity, triple bottoms, consolidates down there around the 145.50 area, then let's look for opportunities to buy and trade this back up towards the 200 moving average. The 1 hour chart is incredibly overextended, and it might just be time to do that. The Euro-Yen is even getting a little bit on the extended side. We've talked about the Euro-Yen a lot. Honestly, I didn't get much of a good entry on this one, I'm sad to say, but talked about the break of 133.30. It broke, it chopped around a lot, and then it's moved 300 pips. So Euro-Yen made a nice little move. We're going to see if this falling wedge, there's falling wedges, by the way, pretty big ones, from daily or 4 hour charts on Euro-Yen, Euro-Aussie, Euro-Dollar. There's a bit of a theme I'm trying to demonstrate here. We've got some pretty bearish price patterns. We've got some pretty overextended charts on most of the Euro pairs at this point, and so I'm just keeping my eye out, and Draghi will probably be the catalyst to get the Euro rallying again against all these other pairs, but it's looking like we might see some of that happening. So I'm going to be just cautiously, trading the trend on the Euro pairs, and I'm going to be aggressively looking for opportunities to buy the euro against a lot, but especially against the US dollar, and probably against the Australian dollar. I'll be a little cautious of the euro versus the yen. But I think there's going to be some good opportunities on that one as well, so we're going to be keeping a real close eye on that and be really focused on some of the dollar pairs, especially with all the news this week. We've got some decent Aussie pairs to keep an eye on, and even gold is starting to give us a little bit of a good idea here. I think gold is going to break $1,000. I hope it is. I think there's some pretty good opportunities there. But in the process of that, I think we might get some retracement and some pullback. You can see that it bounces around and it's starting to try to get back up again. And so we've got a little bit of a falling wedge on this one as well, and if we get some breakouts and we get this starting to move higher, particularly probably above that last time it tested there, 1070 zone, give or take, we might have some nice opportunities to start taking out some of these missed pivots up here on gold and take out that 200 moving average, which is getting fairly extended. We're at about 135, 138 bars on the 4 hour chart, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to be watching this. If we get a nice little breakout, there might be some good opportunities to trade this up into the $1,100 mark and even a little bit beyond. From there, I'm going to short the heck out of gold because I think we're going to break $1,000. But I think a lot of these pairs are just getting a little overextended, and I don't know if there's enough follow-through trend on any of them. So I want to start looking for those corrections, see if the dollar's going to take a little breather, give us an opportunity to get long US dollar at a better price, to buy the dollar on the dip, which would mean selling the euro dollar after it runs higher, which I think is a great trade. Selling pound dollar after it runs higher. Buying this dollar Swiss franc after it runs lower. But in the process, we're going to have some good opportunities to buy the break on euro dollar, I think, and to sell the break on dollar Swiss franc, and so on. All these pairs that we talked about, I think are going to give us some good opportunities this week. So I'm just leaning a little bit towards some dollar correction this week, and then I'm just going to jump right back into all these dollar pairs in the direction of dollar strength after there's been a little bit of a correction. I'd like to see 100 pips at least. I'd like to see the euro dollar move up at least 100 pips. Dollar Swiss franc move down 100 pips. Gold move up 100 pips. All of that kind of stuff. And then I want to start jumping back into those pairs and just trading them right back on down again. Excellent, Simon. Yeah, we've got some divergence on the dollar index as well, and so all of that would be fantastic. I think there's going to be some great opportunities. There's several other pairs that I'm really interested in. I'm going to save that for the trade group and our live sessions coming tomorrow morning, but this is kind of the general outlook that I have for this week, and with all the news that we have coming up, it should be pretty exciting. So we've got some good trades coming. We've got some good activity. I'm totally open to anything you guys want to discuss, but that's kind of what I'm looking to do this week, and there's a lot more to talk about, so we'll cover that in the live sessions and in the notes and so on, and from there we'll leave it. Thanks for joining us today, guys. Questions, comments, send them right on over. I'm right here and I'm all ears, and thanks for attending with us. We'd love to see you in the group for a free trial this week. We're going to have an exciting trade week for sure, so we'll see you guys there. Thanks for joining. Have a lovely rest of the day and good luck. Thanks everyone. Take care.